or something, or whatever it is that you've done.
Whoa!
In here, in Japan, is not quite in that upper echelon. I'm sorry, man. We'll leave that for a little bit, as we're now on to the riff of V3 versus Rascal Jester. Oh.
Middlecott, I'll excuse you for not understanding CV law, because obviously you're not a connoisseur. The AD carries there are not the problem. I'm not saying CV law is perfect, but it wasn't the fault of the AD carries. And dress code, I remember last split, dress code was struggling immensely. In terms of AD carries, was near the bottom, if not the bottom here. And I think this split, dress code's actually been doing pretty decently. He's not bottomed the barrel here, and actually has been pretty instrumental in V3's successes thus far. Sure, he's not standing out the way, Hybrid does for CGA, but, yeah, considering that V3 struggled immensely in spring, massive improvement already. I don't think they're going to get booty blasted, as you so put it here. They just have to play it a little bit safer, and given how Hatel and Just Code have played here, I think playing safe is sort of one of their default modes at this point.
Yeah, we did see a little bit too much aggression in this lane from Yuhi and Loser. So I think standing at your own turret, collecting this yes, going down a couple of waves, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? Especially when you've got champions in Gnar and Zoe that have kind of flexibility in their play patterns, and the Viego definitely a jungler that can find some stuff to do.
Yeah, and the lanes for V3 aren't terrible either. I mean, Zoe can bully out Victor early, because Zoe is more of an early game champion, and Victor actually doesn't get the ability to wave clear his waves until much later on. And in the top side, Gnar often is picked into the GP. You can quite reliably clear those barrels early on when the timer is quite long. You outrange GP to a certain extent, because GP has to burn mana to trade with you. So it's really about knowing when to push out to set up for Unica to have that early impact onto the map here. And if anything, I kind of want to see Unica ignore the bot lane a little bit. That's the one lane where even in a 2v3, I'm not sure V3 wins that. So if that's the case, let Dresscode and Hetel farm onto turret safely here. Just make sure they don't get dove, and instead look to punish Recap on this immobile Victor, which is often going to be spending mana just to push lane out.
Maybe where Unica's opting for, or he could be fighting against Hachimecha. Volibear is not a champion that you want to duel in the early game. Especially with that press, the attack, you've got so much more damage as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Does find a bubble and is going to throw out a paddle style, doing a fair chunk onto Recap, like you mentioned. A bit more of that pressure in the early game.
Good punish there from Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that's one thing, like we said, he's improved massively and has looked like the best performing player on this V3 roster. But Middlecott, I was just laughing earlier watching Hachimecha and Unica go at it. The fact that when Unica went into, the miss there, Hachimecha dropped vision and actually stood still for a second. Just the targeting in the game, and the way Unica missed the spectral maul as well, was just like, okay.
The best one,
junglers.
The best one is spamming attack move when someone is going in and out of vision, because your character model just kind of goes all over the place. Hachimecha securing that topside scuttle, will walk through vision, so V3 do know that he's moving towards these Krugs. Might need to protect Ino in a few minutes, as that GP pretty low on mana.
Yeah, and good read from Soul and Secret there as well, knowing that, okay, our top side is protected. Hachimecha has gone up there. We need to now protect Soul and Secret, who are pushing out with this aggressive Nami Lucian bot lane, and they can continue pushing, but the fact they're not is because, they're worried that Unica might be in the area, could potentially look for a bit of a bush gank here, and that buys Dresscode and Hetel a bit more time to farm up, which they've done a great job of doing thus far.
I was just going to say that. Actually, CS lead for the Aphelios and has only burnt one pot as well. So Dresco and Hetel managing just fine. Actually looking for an aggressive play with this hook onto Sol, who can turn it around with the double shots. It ends up being a fairly even HP trade. That's rude, man. No, you deserve to take a tower shot for that.
Hey, that's how you're supposed to play the Zoe, right? Bully out the Victor. Don't let him go back to base. And Recap is running out of mana here. Can't even really shove this wave. So well played from Yu-Gi-Oh! Here. You're pretty much going to force the TP out of Recap pretty easily here. Now, the big question to me still is the junglers thus far. Generally, as a Volibear, you do want to gank at least once before your second full clear. In fact, some junglers might argue that if you have full clearing, you probably played the Volibear wrong. And so far, Hachimecha hasn't been able to find anything here. Unica, on the other hand, going to be more than happy to sit back and farm till that level 6 when you get the execute, and then you start to get a lot more active with the setup from your lanes.
Now, something that's intriguing me as well is how these teams are going to play around the Drake, because it has been on the Rift for a little while, and just sort of conceptually, Volibear, Lucian, Nami sounds like a bot side that should win basically any engagement around that objective. So I am surprised that Rascal Jesters haven't put as much priority on that Drake as they could have done.
Well, for one, Middlecott, they haven't been winning the bot lane.
No, they haven't, no.
Which is really odd when you think about it, because we laud Soul and Secret so much as such a strong bot lane, but let's remember that a lot of their success tends to come from scaling champions. You know, picks like the Jinx, the Xayah, the Aphelios we saw last split. In terms of early game, we don't see that very often. So we had questions on, can this Lucian Nami put down sufficient pressure? And for now, the answer looks like no. V3 continue to have a really solid early game, and they're the ones who are actually going to pick up this first dragon, potentially even rotate to contest that first herald.
I mean, that was smart from Ino there, anticipating that the rotation could come through, getting a couple of deep wards, not particularly deep, a couple of wards into V3's jungle. But yeah, we've still got a minute until that herald spawns, so we could very well see Dresscode and Hetel go for a little bit of a shove in this bot lane and then rotate towards the top side of the map, try and double dip on the early game objectives.
And I'm going to say what I said last game as well. I don't think that V3 should really full-on contest this Herald. Leave dress code in that bot side. Your win con is kind of getting to that, or is getting dress code into that team fighting monster that Aphelios can be here. Worst comes to worst, just delay the Herald take as long as you possibly can there. And if you're going to go for that Herald, just send Hetel up. I think that's fine enough here.
Well, I mean, we're sort of seeing that as Jesco is just holding the wave, making sure that it is going to push slowly towards them, maybe try and generate a freeze here. But I am surprised that Soul and Secret haven't been playing this matchup as aggressively as they could have done, because Lucian Nami, whilst it's still strong in the later stages, you do need to snowball a bit more than they are.
And the fact that Hetel can just stand in a bush and kind of zone out Soul and Secret right now is not a good look. And now that Hachimecha just hit 6 as well, I think it's time for Rascal Jesters to try and change that a little bit. Potentially look for a dive onto this bot side. You've got Vision top lane. If you ever see Unica show up anywhere in the bot side, I want to see Hachimecha just immediately rush down there, match it, and look for a turret dive.
I mean, because you've got the cannon barrage from Ino as well, who's been doing pretty well into this Gnar in the top side. Was up about 10 CS, and as this wave is going to get shoved in by the Gnar, should equalize that up. So doing well in a matchup that maybe should have been pressurized in a little bit more. And that's a really good sign later into this game that this GP is going to have a bit more space.
Yeah, for now, though, interesting. I don't think they actually have vision on Unica, but we're seeing missing pings actually come down onto the red buff there. So I'm not sure if Rascal Jesters just have a really good read on where this Viego is, but if they do truly know that,
the hook through the minion wave into the knockup as well. The exhaust is going to buy Soul some time, but the flash commits that come through from V3 secure them first blood.
Cannon Barrage cutting them off behind as well. Doesn't do diddly squat for Soul and Secret, though. And I was just thinking here, Middlecott, that, okay, if you know Unica's there, you play this safe, you can punish with Hachimecha. But instead, no, V3 finding that one here gives them the priority. And this actually should be a signal for V3 to say, okay, let's look at this Herald, right? We've got that advantage. We've got that kill here.
Yeah, and this is how it started off. This was an absolutely wonderful hook from Hetel, just waiting for that caster minion to die. Throws out the dredge line, catching Soul completely by its surprise.
Yeah, and that's disrespect from Soul as well, right? You've got to be tracking that minion wave. And you could see the way he was like kind of stepping up a little bit. He was daring them to throw that hook. But the moment that minion drops, and it dropped for a good half a second to a second, and Soul was just still dancing there. You can't afford to do that, mate. You've got minions. Use them or you die.
Another bubble landing onto Recap in the mid lane. Ignite is going to be dropped from Ayucho. And I think if it wasn't for Secret and Hachimecha making their way over, we could have been seeing a solo kill from that V3 mid laner. Another advantage gained in that fight actually was that cannon barrage commit. Still half the cooldown left on that, and that means that Unica can start up this Rift Herald without anyone really getting in his way. Washidai not quite able to secure the stun onto Ino there, but it's good to see that he's trading a bit more aggressively with the Gnar.
Yeah, really good orange from Ino to immediately cleanse the stun because he couldn't cleanse the knockup. Now Hachimecha finally going down to this bot lane like we call, you know that you lost the Herald. You know that, well, there's no point being topside anymore. And Hachimecha just walks away. Middle court, Hachimecha has not gotten a single gank off so far. I don't count that poking your head into the mid lane a gank. Nothing happened there. There really was no potential. Ayujo still has flash up and available. Level 7 Volibear single gank is not the reason why you pick this champion.
Absolutely. Do need to be careful, though. I think in the 3v3, with Hachimecha and this bot lane, you'd still have to favor them because the base damages are just too high, but the window that Rascal Jester can play around the bottom side of the map is slowly closing, and it is going to start to be a bit more on recap, a bit more on Ino to be the carries for this side. Luden's Echo now completed for the victory is going to give them a lot more ability to gain priority, especially in this mid wave.
Yeah, and recap now should be able to start clearing waves. This is where Zoe starts to struggle a little bit when your enemy mid laner can actually wave clear and push faster than you can, and suddenly Yujo won't have the ability to roam out to assist the side waves quite as much here. Rascal Jesters, I like that they're kind of going for this dragon. They've been falling behind in tempo here. This time, the moment dragon spawns, they're onto it. And my question is a little bit for V3 as well here, in that if you're going to give this dragon up for free, what are you going to do with this advantage? You can't even really dive Ino right now. Ino just TP'd back into lane, is full health. They're kind of looking for it, but look at that level of discrepancy. If Unica gets hit by a barrel from a Trinity Force GP here, that dive goes south immediately.
Yeah, Yujo is making his way over as well, though, so
could
help out this dive. No TP available for recap. Ino is all on his lonesome, thrown into the ball, but the skill shots go wide, the flash away. Washidai tanking up the tower. It's not going to matter in the end, but that could have been a hell of a lot cleaner. Recap does make the roam over. Secret doesn't want to do anything to take away that kill. The flash maybe a little bit over-aggressive there from the Rascal Jester mid laner, but hey, you're on the board.
True. I think they're just kind of worried that, okay, if Washidai goes Binny, might be able to start running away, getting over walls and stuff, and then Secret will have to secure the kill. But that's why I said that top dive is not safe. Even with a Yujo going up, they didn't land the paddle star. They just didn't have enough damage. Washidai took so much on the way out, and not to mention just how long the dive ended up taking allows Rascal Jesters to answer back. And now Hachimecha looking to answer on the other side. Come on, Hachimecha. Come on, man. I keep hyping you up. You've got this Volibear. You've got the ultimate. Just dive, buddy.
Not gonna go for it. Hit by a bubble instead. I do want to call out this Herald in Unica's inventory. Has been sat on that one for a fair while. Gonna need to throw it down soon if you still want to take out some plates. Yujo not quite able to find that paddle star, but with the Mythic completed, the Luden's Tempest now for this Zoe, one-shots are becoming pretty realistic.
Yeah, I think 2 CP Trouble Bubbles will net a kill solo. And if Unica's anywhere nearby with that Heartseeker, can probably execute. Oh, Hachimecha actually steals that one away here.
Red buff on the Volibear, great. But it's not a gank, which is what we've been asking for. 14 minutes on the clock. Those turret plates have now fallen away, so Unica not going to be getting the maximum value out of this Herald, but still should be able to secure a decent bit of pressure here. Oh, those bubbles are looking magnetic at points.
Yeah, Yujo, like we said, has looked much better this split, and I thought the Zoe was probably his weakest performance thus far, back on day one. Looking much, much better right now. The problem, though, is that Yujo still hasn't found any kills, and as much as you're kind of landing them on Recap's just been farming up a storm anyways. Granted, has had to use the TP quite a few times to get back into lane, but what matters is the fact that Recap's not falling behind, and Recap will outscale. So unless Yujo can start landing some of these bubbles, which are actually full up on and capitalized, I fear that the Zoe pick is not going to hit its full potential either.
I think just broadly, we need to see more from V3 in these early stages, because RJ do outscale, and it's not like they outscale in a composition that doesn't have a tank line, which some of the teams have been drafting. Hachimecha, whilst he hasn't got a lot of early game action done, with this Frostfire Gauntlet build, he's going to be a little bit tankier, and we know that Volibear can act as that meatball in the mid to later stages of the game. Soul and Secret, whilst they haven't piloted this bot lane perfectly, at least they're going to be picking up first tower.
Okay, I kind of wish that they would toggle the gold a little bit, because I'm curious to see, how much gold exactly Soul has, and whether it's significant because I often look at a Lucianami lane, kind of like the old Caitlyn lanes with Lux or Morgana,
Yeah,
where if you're not winning early, you're
you're
kind of
losing.
falling behind. Exactly, you're expected to walk out of lane with 1,000 gold lead at least, pretty much, and turret before 14 minutes. And Soul Secret did not manage to get that turret pre 14 minutes, so they didn't even get most of the plates, I believe, off that turret pre 14 minutes either. So it's less than ideal. And if you look at the team gold as well, middle card, 400 gold difference is negligible at this point. It's like a pair of boots. It's a Duran's item. It really isn't enough.
It's worth very little. Hetal going to be forced to flash over the wall. Cannon Barrage invested from Rascal Jesters looking for that fight as Hachimecha takes half his HP from the Trouble Bubble into Paddle Star combo. Rascal Jester not being shy about their intent here, as Ino making his way into the mid lane. Herald appears to be the play, but if these bubbles keep landing, it could be Curtis for them. But no, Hetal oversteps, he goes too far forward, and Soul is able to punish. Heartbreaker strike away from Unica as the Chaos Storm is chasing him down in his jungle. But a good bubble from Eugeo stops the onslaught of Recap. Rascal Jester finally showing a bit of grit, a bit of determination, showing their teeth, securing that Herald. Washidai still able to trade for a tower in the bot lane, though.
Signs of life. It's still not a gank from Hachimecha, but again, the objectives, right? He stole red buff, now he takes the Herald. Well played from him. And I want to highlight how Hachimecha actually really won them that fight as well. They're body blocking a Yu-Gi-Oh! So that the Paddle Star didn't pump out all the damage that it should have onto the target that was slept. Now, Rascal Jesters, they were thinking about going for this dragon. Honestly, they are quite strong, but they've just blown all their ultimates here. So I do think it's a little bit over ambitious. And you look over to V3 here, depth charge still up because Hessel died so early.
So getting pressurized in the mid lane. And I mean, it's second Drake and it's a Cloud Drake. It's not something that you need to be fighting unnecessarily over. I think if V3 get a few of these stacked up and get towards that Soul, I think, yes, that's something that Rascal Jesters are going to have to respect. But even then, it's not that we talk about this Cloud Soul as a big late game-winning objective. V3 really wanted that tower, by the way.
Yeah. The fact that Jesco had to Gale Force away there, Yu-Gi-Oh! Took a turret shot trying to do it. Washi just walks in and secures it. Now, Recap actually not able to answer. So, you know what? For all the hunger that V3 showed for that mid-turret, I think it's worth there. Their greed is not going to be punished.
Which is excellent. I think Recap should be able to take down this tower on this next shove. So, 2 for 2 in terms of the overall turret score, but crucially, V3 holding on to their mid lane tower for the time being does provide you a lot of pressure, but V3 not going to lose their mid laner. Rascal Jester not opting to pull the trigger.
Oh my goodness, middle caught. V3 is not going to lose their mid laner, but I'm going to lose my mind right now. Again, they get such good setups on the side of Rascal Jester. You've got the composition to force this. And it's even worse that we just watched Harp and Yutapon play Nami Lucian, and Harp got so many great tidal waves. Secret got the cutoff angle. You could have found a Yu-Gi-Oh! At least forced the flash out. And Hachimecha, sure, you didn't have ult available, but one of the scariest things, was, or used to be, like a Volibear level 3 just run you down. That doesn't change. Anytime you're in a long lane, Volibear can continue to run you down. Just pull the trigger, mate. But instead, this is the problem that has plagued Rascal Jesters thus far this split, is they just seem to keep sitting back and waiting. And I'm not sure what exactly they're waiting for. When you got these situations, pull the trigger. For all V3's faults, that's one thing that they have done well this split, is that they're actively looking for plays.
And I mean, right now, they're absolutely chilling in this game state. Dress code is up 30 CS on a Lucian as Aphelios. That is honestly illegal at this point. Herald is going to be summoned in the mid lane. But your wave is not really that substantial. Once this goes down, I'd be surprised if RJ can actually get this Graviton thrown out just to dissuade the play. And whilst that mid lane tower is low, fundamentally, it's still standing.
Yeah, and maybe Rascal Jesters could be bait into overextending a Yu-Gi-Oh! Looking for a pick on the side here. And again, I love this from V3. The fact that they're willing to keep chasing, they're willing to keep punishing, they're willing to keep pushing out here. And Rascal Jesters, you're kiting back, but what are you... what are you waiting for? I feel like you can always turn around and punish, this over-aggressive chasing from the side of V3 here. It's very, very even.
Ooh. That Dredge Rhyme was mighty close from Hetal. I'm not sure if that's a play that you actually wanted to go in on, but...
No.
It's proactivity nonetheless. We're getting a little bit of a J-Ram as Rascal Jester really want to even up the turret score. And with that shot from Sol, he's going to be able to take
there
it
we
out. Goes
go.
up with the culling, actually. Proactivity RMC, and it secures a kill for Rascal Jester.
Who would have thought, Middlecott, just pull the trigger and maybe you'll find someone. Great pick off from them, and you can see that they've had the tools for so long to be able to do that. With your composition, with this GP, with this Victor, yes, you are able to kite back, but you look even better when you're moving forward and actually threatening them here. And that's that scaling we were talking about from this GP, from this Victor here. The poke is good. And you mentioned that Rascal Jesters have a tank who can soak poke in the form of Hachimecha. Guess what? V3 don't, because Hetel, as a support, doesn't have enough incoming. Again, went with the Zhonya's Nautilus. Not a best pick necessarily into a very high burst composition here. Doesn't really have a good way to soak up that poke from Victor or GP.
Yeah, and then you've got Unica going for the Divine Sunder, but Viego sort of more of a bruiser, doesn't really have the same ability to tank. And then when Washi dies in Mega Form, he wants to be behind you, essentially. Looking for those flanks, try and get onto the Victor and the GP, who are going to be massive threats on this backline as this game continues.
Yeah, and I'd argue that if your Meganar is your soak tank for poke, you've got problems, because you want Meganar, as you pointed out, to be in the backline, to be that engage from your team. Meganar actually really struggles to force engages from the front there. One of the negatives of Mega Form is that you're a bit slower than your Mini Form, so it's very difficult to play or to catch into the enemy team. An early TP from Ino here. I didn't think this Clout Drake was really that important, but Rascal Jesters, they have gone right back to the J-Ram.
So they have, RMC. Regardless, still able to get the priority. That barrel chain from, I know, just going a little bit wide. These gravity reels from Recap are pretty important, because it means that Yujo can't go quite as far forward as he would necessarily like to, and it means that the poke that RJ can throw out sticks a little bit harder. V3 recognize that walking into this river would probably be a pretty stupid thing to do. They're rotating towards the Baron, ping's going down. I think that would be a bit stupid to start that up as well.
Yeah, and I like this from V3, because I think my biggest criticism of them and their throws have come from being a bit over aggressive and not setting up properly. So I love the respect. Washi die.
Oh, it's the same play. It's the same play. Pull them down. Cannon barrage into the kill.
The same play in the same play. I guess we know why Rascal Jester keeps going back to the J-Ram, because it works, right? It's a kill every time they look for it here. And
that corner of mid lane. That corner of mid lane is just deadly.
It's the smaller half of the mid lane as well. Like, he should be shading into the top side instead. Oh, great bubble from the usual, but you can't follow up on it.
Yeah, because Hachimecha can just stand in the front line. The ultimate has been thrown out there by Hetel to secure a knockup, as that's not the way that you want to see a bear be diving. But Hachimecha keeps himself alive. It's been a very cagey game, RMC. I feel like that's the best description for what we've been seeing so far.
It has, and to a very large extent, we kind of expected this coming into this. This is, after all, V3 and Rascal Jesters. Rascal Jesters, not a team known to be particularly proactive or, you know, front-facing for the most part here. So it makes sense that they're kind of cagey. And like I said, I appreciate that V3 as well are not trying to over-rush anything. They're really taking their time with a lot of these plays. They don't want to throw the game. But I am getting a little bit concerned for them, because we've seen now that they don't really have a good way to poke out Rascal Jesters in these open situations where there's a lot of space to maneuver here. I think Eudrio has done a great job looking for these picks thus far, but unless there's some sort of follow-up, or unless they can get around Hachimecha right now, V3 are sort of falling behind in the poke game.
They lack that next step. That one extra person that could take that bubble and go, yo, we're fighting now. We said before the game that V3 would probably have about 25 minutes where they were allowed to play before Rascal Jester recognized that there was actually stuff that they could do in this game, and that time has now elapsed. RJ are the ones sat with the gold lead, small as it may be, only a couple of thousand. They're perching themselves up in the top half of the map. They're getting some items on their carries, maybe looking to fight soon.
Yep, and are we going to go back to the J-Ram here, Middlecott? Rascal Jesters, they're set up mid. They're looking for this right now. And again, bubble lands. And look at Hachimecha's positioning. Doing a great job of being a defensive Volibear. Like I've repeated myself several times, Volibear is not a generally defensive champion as we think of him, but Hacha Mecha is desperately trying to change my mind.
Oh,
Oh,
so!
Cannon Barrage. Where's the
Cannon
Cannon
Barrage? Where
Barrage?
is it? Where's the Cannon Barrage? Where's the Cannon Barrage? Not gonna come through. Maybe the HP on Dresco's just a little bit too much. Quite a cool combo that we've been seeing, but it is now Rascal Jester who are playing like the team with the lead, like the team with the pressure, like the team that was third place in spring. Yes, it's been a little bit shaky. It's been a little bit slower than we would have liked, but now we're really starting to see the cogs turn and them get some more advantages.
I mean, Rascal Jester is the longest average game time this split. They were also the longest average game time last split as well. Even when they are winning, they play slow. So middle court, might as well get comfortable here because if Rascal Jesters are winning this one, I don't think they're going to be winning anytime soon. Baron is up on the table. Dragon coming up in a minute and a half. So there are things for them to push for.
I can't get comfortable, man. I've got a standing desk. I need this game to end quickly, otherwise my legs are going to fall out from underneath me, RMC. I'm not sure that you are quite aware of what is at stake.
You're right. I'm not. I've got a standing desk too. Right now, you can't see me on camera, but I'm basically doing like squats and exercises. So if you hear my voice is different every once in a while, it's because I'm expecting this to be a long one.
You're squatting? What?
Yeah.
Well, you at the gym or something?
No, I'm at a standing desk, and I've got nothing better to do till Hachimetra decides to dive. Dive. You can do it.
I believe in you, Hachimetra. You can go for this dive.
Okay, now the minion wave's been cleared.
Now the minion
Next wave, it's coming in 10 seconds.
Yeah, come on. Oh, are you Joe? Oh. Yeah, you don't want to portal jump into melee range of a Volibear. That's a lesson that the V3 mid laner has just learned. Excellent play coming through from RJ, opening up with the culling. And it's Recap who secures the kill. It's still slow. It's still considered, but they're getting stuff, RMC.
True. I was gonna say, you know what? You chunk a Yujo. You flat out killed Hetal. And even then, they still did not dive the turret. I don't know what it's gonna take. And we might not actually see a dive this game, because as you pointed out, it's still working for Rascal Justice. They're on Baron now. Washide is mega, but he's running out quick. They need to pull the engage if they're looking for it. If not, when he goes mini, they can't even look at Baron at that point.
Yeah, it becomes absolutely impossible. I was saying that though. Oh, Soul going over the wall. Are you Joe? Oh, the combo once again. I know, with another kill. Flash away, dash away from Unica, but it's not enough. 2 more picks and maybe we see a Baron.
The critical mistake from V3 there, middle court, they looked at Baron after watching went mini. You can't afford to do that. You don't have a tank. We already said that before. And for Rascal Jesters, don't fix what ain't broke, right? As much as I hate how slow they're playing it, this culling Cannon Barrage combo, it's just working so well. And V3 have no answer to it whatsoever. One thing is just their lack of mobility, right? Even Zoe's mobility is kind of fake because her portal jump does bring her back right into the Cannon Barrage, if that is what is dropping down here. So we're seeing, you know, Dresscode, Hetal, Unica, all of them really struggling to deal with this combo that Rascal Jesters have crafted themselves.
As we see that here in the replay, actually going back to this sort of play around the top side, we see it's the culling into the dive. No Cannon Barrage here, but Recap's still able to pick up the kill. And whilst Rascal Jester dance around, think around the Baron, V3, they just go a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, and they're doing it without vision as well, I think is the important part, which is very risky into a Victor gangplank. We've already touched on how strong their poke is here. So you can't be doing that. And Soul actually just flashes over this wall with tons of aggression because the minion wave has already shown that, hey, there's only one guy here right now. Nobody else is here, and we can just easily punish with no...
Meanwhile, Hetel's just dead. Recap solo killing the V3 support. The final inner tower goes down in favor of Rascal Jesters as we are about to hit 30 minutes. That big Baron buffed up cannon minion throwing the deeps against the tower as the next wave is going to be escorted through. Hachimetra just empowering that mid lane wave, making sure that there's multiple places of pressure here for Rascal Jester. And V3, they don't think that they can contest this. They have to give up the inhib.
Yeah, that's gone. Well, because Hetel's still not up, right? This is a 4v5 situation because they lost, because they got picked right off the bat there, and they're going to lose multiple inhibitors for it. Hetel's finally back up, but now V3, you can't fight this with the burned up minions coming to your wave, and RJ, they just kind of need to reset, go back, and then go for that top side here. there's really nothing on the map to contest. Even if Dragon comes back up right now, it is literally irrelevant for Rascal Jesters.
Yeah, it would be Soul for them, but they could just win the game instead. And I think that Nexus is probably a more important objective than Cloud Soul. Level 17 now for Ino, level 16 for Recap. 3 items completed for both. These late game carries at Rascal Jesters, it took some time, but they are well and truly online. V3, they need to find a miracle fight to keep themselves in this game.
And so far, we've not seen that whatsoever. Even the poke is starting to get nullified. We've seen that Ino can now start tanking those bubbles fairly effectively. You know, you pop that orange, you cleanse immediately here. And for V3, I'm not even sure how you look for this. It's got to be Washidai coming in from a very oblique angle here, but where is Washidai? He's bot side here with nothing to TP to look for a flank.
Yeah, looking for an angle. But the scaling for Rascal Jester has just been too much. V3, they've not contested any of this. They've been triple inhibbed without even trying to prevent that from happening. And now, as Rascal Jesters are going to be hitting onto the Nexus towers, finally Hatel goes in, but gets blown up immediately. No time to stopwatch, but time to die. Rascal Jester with 2 kills. Washidai is going to be number 3. As a Yu-Gi-Oh throws out the paddle stars, but it is not enough to save his team. The flash stun from Hachimecha knocks him down, as Dress Code is the last remaining member of V3. Rascal Jester, it looked a little bit slow, it looked a little bit shaky, but they're able to take down V3 and put themselves at 2-2.
Okay, Middle Cotton, with that